thousands of years back, Acharya Chanakya in his Arthashastra said, Kah kalah kan mitrani, ko deshah kau vyagamau, kasyam kaj chame shakti riti chintyam muhur, which means consider again and again the following: the right time, the right friends, the right place, the right means of income, the right ways of spending, and from whom you derive your power. Today, after so many centuries, this quote of Acharya Chanakya is still valid, very much in sense of the geopolitical world and the global political economy around us. So today, on behalf of IITB for Bharat and Think India, we are having a talk on India in contemporary global systems, geopolitics and economics by Dr. Gautam Sen. So I would like to introduce Dr. Gautam Sen. Dr. Sen is B.Sc in economics and Ph.D in international political economy from London School of Economics and Political Science, and is one of the creators of the graduate program in international political economy at LSE and PS, where he has taught for over 2 decades as director and lecturer in the Masters in Politics of World Economy. Dr. Sen has advised Prime Ministers, including Atal Bihari Vajpayee of India and Sher Bahadur Deuba of Nepal. He has also been a senior consultant with the UNDPO and UNIDO. Dr. Sen was also an advisor to the Veroni Investment Corporation and Barclays Capital. Dr. Sen has lectured to NATO officers in Brazil and high-ranking officers at the Royal College of Defence Studies, London. He was also appointed to the Indo-UK Roundtable by Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Dr. Sen has published extensively. He is co-author of Analyzing the Global Political Economy, Princeton University Press 2009. He is also currently co-authoring a book for Simon Publishers on India's economic reforms. He has extensively written on many portals, including First Post, The Sunday Guardians, India Facts, Swaraj Magazine, and many more. So now I would like to invite Professor Vardharaj Bapat from Shailesh J. Mehta School of Management to present flowers to Dr. Sen. I would also like to invite Professor Bhanumurthy from Department of MEMS to present shawl and nariyal to Dr. Sen.
So this is the best way of inviting.
Absolutely.
Rewarding the.
Thank you.
If you don't mind.
Not at all. I'm very touched. Thank you.
So today's session will be a talk followed by a Q&A session. So I would like to invite Professor Bapat to welcome Dr. Sen, and thereby we will proceed with the talk.
Namaste all of you. I think we have already welcomed our respected and a very senior person as a speaker, but you would have noted the difference that we have really done it in a Bharatiya way by offering not a bouquet but giving a pushpamala and shawl and shriphal. And both the groups which are organizing this, IITB for Bharat and Think India, are essentially trying to promote a feeling of Bharat Mata Ki Jai. So yes, we want objective and a scholarly sessions. We want discussion to be organized in a proper objective manner, but with a Bharatiya perspective. And that is where we have got a very apt speaker, and with national education policy coming up, lot of discussion is happening, churning is happening, because a particular ideology which was essentially a foreign way of looking at Bharat was on for a very long time. and we as academicians should know that it will also take a long time to change it, but many movements have started, and I hope scholars like Dr. Sen, who are already doing it for a long time in UK and at other places, they would definitely be instrumental in bringing those changes. With this, I'll stop because we are all really eager to listen to him. Namaste.
Now I would like to invite Dr. Sen to deliver his talk. Yes, yes.
आपको ठीक है ना पकड़े बोले दिख लीजिए।
Absolutely, absolutely.
Namaste, and thank you for affording me the honor of speaking at this venue to you all. I have spoken in various parts of India and abroad, but this is my first occasion to give a lecture in the city of Mumbai, and I felt very conscious that I am in a region which has produced in previous centuries and recently some of the truly
We have to adjust that. Is it on?
Yes, it is.
We would like to record and preserve it. That's why we are just.
I'm very conscious I'm in a region which has an extraordinary history, going back to the immensely significant coronation in Raigad in 1676 of Maharaja Chhatrapati Shivaji. As an aside, I say to you, any of you who want a 1-hour summary of some of the changes, political, cultural, historical, associated with the rise of the Marathas, there is a rather good YouTube video by somebody called Smita Mukherjee, Marathas and the Rise of Indian National Consciousness. If you just, in YouTube, not in Google, look for Smita, S-M-I-T-A Mukherjee, it is rather good. I know nothing much about the lady except that she spoke with a lot of eloquence, and I would recommend it to you because it has many strengths in the way she has depicted that history. I'm of course also thinking about the people from Ranare to Gokhale to Tilak, which is also my name at home, and of course Savarkar, whose name provokes controversy, astonishingly in my view. You may find an article of mine in India Facts defending Savarkar against the malicious libel which originated with the major opposition party. I also mentioned to you somebody whose name history will vindicate, whatever the contemporary view of him is now, which is Balasaheb. History will vindicate him. When we look back in future generations, we will know what an important role he played. And I make no comment on the subsequent history of that movement, but certainly Balasaheb was a man of great significance in that great tradition. As I look out at you, and since I'm getting on in years, I sense that the future of India will be in the hands of people like you. It is you who will make India, here and in other places. And I feel confident from what little I know that you certainly do not lack the intellectual capacity to undertake this task. So that's by way of a preface. But let me say a few other things as context. the first thing to bear in mind, and I speak unapologetically because though I taught at LSE, that's my principal career, I went to live in England as a teenager for bizarre reasons. My friend will know there were attempts on my father's life in Calcutta in 1969. He was a senior corporate executive and they tried to kill him and we were transferred overnight. Within 1 week we were in Calcutta and then we were in the West Country in the bitter, bitter cold of January. So that's how I ended up there. But I never gave up the hope of coming back. In 2004 I resigned my 10-year position at LSE and came back to try and work in India. But for many reasons I've been back. Anyway, so that's where I come from. I have a number of relatives who spent time in British jails, including very briefly my mother, who was a very strong, athletic lady who beat up two Anglo-Indian women for calling Indians terrorists. But she was released. So I have a slight tradition of belligerence, if I may say so. And I also have a very distinguished uncle, her elder brother, who spent 8 years in jail from the age of 18. Terrible jails. And my grandfather, who was professor of ancient history in Scottish Church, who spent 2 years in Lyallpur watching hangings. He then went a little bit crazy seeing so many people, and they used to not cover your face in those days. Anyway, so I make no bones about my unequivocal commitment. And I say to myself, there comes a time in history that there is a moment for blind love. With you and my fellow Indians, I will much to complain about my country. And I am a critic of many things, even now, but I will not discuss this with people from other countries, most of whom are malicious and have an agenda. In the face of their intervention, I will defend my country. I will refuse to. And I've lived abroad long enough in the United States and in the United Kingdom to be extremely suspicious. They do not wish us well. Believe you me, they do not. And there's one little thing I've been telling people lately that many Indians abroad make, and I am able to speak about this because I've lived abroad for 52 years. People mistake their own private relationships with foreigners. You're living in California, New York, and London. आपके साथ कुछ अच्छा रिश्ता बन गया किसी के साथ. They treat you well. And then you take that to interpret that country's relationship with India. ये बिल्कुल गलत है, बिल्कुल गलत है. But you know, it's a normal normal human tendency to translate their personal experience to a higher level. Very, अंग्रेज नहीं करते. English don't do that. They're too smart. But we are actually a people who are, as my friend Prakash Shah, professor in London, reminds me, we are a very forgiving people, which is a strength and a weakness. It is a strength because it means intolerable things in this country do not become even worse. If I may refer to the great German philosopher Immanuel Kant to elaborate on this theme, he said, never was a straight thing made out of the crooked timber of humanity. This is a very dharmic sentiment. I don't think he read the Vedas. That we in our civilization recognize that life is all grey. It is not binary, black and white, which is a deeply Christian world view of sin, goodness, evil. हमारे यहाँ पे सब कुछ होता है, and we can cope with it because that is what life is. And we don't try to change anything and everything by the sword and violence. लड़ाई होता है, महाभारत भी हुआ था, कुरुक्षेत्र, but we do not regard this as the norm. Everything must be straightened out. That is not true of many foreign ideologies. Anyway, so we are at a cusp. India is at a cusp. And in my estimate as a scholar, as a professional scholar, not as a patriotic Indian, which I am, is that the key date will be between 24 and 29. This will be the moment of truth for us, 1000 saal ke baad. And the reason is a very simple one, to do with arithmetic. If an economy grows at 8% per annum, it takes 14 years for the GDP to triple. I'm sure you can work it out considering your backgrounds. If you grow at 9%, it takes even less time. At the moment, we are what, 3.2 trillion at current PPP. When we are 5, we become a bigger problem for many people. When we are 7, they have cause for alarm. Our adversaries have cause for alarm. When we hit $10, we don't have to reach China's 18 trillion. Right? 10 trillion, we are a difficult customer, if I may put it this way. We are a problem for many countries. Don't think about, हम तो अच्छे आदमी हैं. We don't wish evil. We think the whole world is humanity. Oh, सब सही बात है. That is not how they look at you and me. We are in the way. And we have no friends in the world. We have no friends. Believe you me, after what, 1973 to now, almost 40 years of study of international relations, I re-emphasize we have no friends. Our interests converge with some countries, and they have converged for prolonged periods. Like with the Soviets under Stalin, our interests converged, and it continues to converge and is giving us trouble today. For the same reason, other people are not happy. Is there any country which will be saddened if we are in trouble? I think Vietnam. इसको बहुत दुख पहुंचता है, because they have the same problem on their border. I am proud to be the friends of the Vietnamese, because in my estimation there are two great people apart from us. I'll modestly leave us out of it: the Russians and the Vietnamese. Do not underestimate the Russians. I am not an expert, but I'm a scholar of Russian history, the literature, and the past, and I have expertise of the war in the Eastern Front during the Second World War. There are no people with such aesthetic skill, such staying power, such bravery. There are no people. And I have occasionally said to people, I would rather go down fighting with the Russians than emerge victorious with some. That is my sense of their greatness. I've been there to Moscow. I've taught UN employees there. It was November. It was so cold. I tried to go out. I ran back after 5 minutes. It was minus 23. And they told me, oh, this is just the beginning. It will be minus 40. I said, I come from a cold, warm country. So many bhag ke wapas gaye. Go out and you simply become like a frozen statue. I noticed about the Russians, they are a bit dour as individuals. They don't like to speak about themselves. They are a bit restrained. But they are great people. Whether you talk about Dostoevsky, Tolstoy. By the way, Tolstoy was a great fan of Swami Vivekananda, a great devotee. Like J.D. Salinger, the American author, they're all great devotees. And others, so many of them. Now, so I'm quite pro. The problem with India reaching 10 trillion is, they want us off the stage. And the biggest problem is China, who has great dreams of total domination of Asia. This is not because the Chinese are bad people as such. That is not relevant to my point about them. But they have a thing called the Middle Kingdom syndrome, that everybody must kowtow and bow to them. This is a very old tradition. And a great Chinese scholar in Washington has written a very important book about this, in which he says the only way to stop this militarily. The Chinese scholar has written such a book. We are in the way. We are the only country in Asia which can make their aspiration for total domination incomplete. Many years ago, I came across an article by an Australian journalist in which he said about how China views us. ये टूटा फूटा देश for which they have contempt, by the way. They have a contempt for us, nothing less contempt. How come they are standing up to us? The Chinese are puzzled. This no country, India, you need to take us out. I shared this article with Sham Saran, our former foreign secretary, and Sham said, very perceptive. And Sham knows China. He's written a book about China, just came out recently. Sham is a very smart man. He's very, very clever. Good friend, but I have some issues about his unhappiness with the incumbent government. I have some issues about that. But he's an extremely clever man. Do not underestimate him. He's the only man cleverer than our current boss, Jayashankar. That man is especially clever. And we are seeing a little bit of that demonstration regularly. बाहर जाके वो क्या ना क्या कह देते हैं. I think he's overdoing it a little bit. सुनने में मजा आता है. सुनने में मजा आता है. Chinese have contempt for us, and Shwam has delivered a lecture. It's on YouTube on this subject. Shwam Saran has given a very good lecture going back historically from the times when Buddhism went to China from India to the time when Indian and Sikh soldiers were used by the British to subjugate Chinese. The Opium Wars. They used Indians. ये गंदा काम तो सिर्फ अंग्रेज कर सकते हैं. They made sure that they didn't like us because they meant them as soldiers. So the Chinese want us out of the way. This is the biggest immediate problem. Pakistan is basically part of China. It's a province of China in behavioral terms. They have no autonomy. जो 26/11 हुआ था ये साल में, there is no evidence, but I guarantee you, before they embarked on it, they checked with the Chinese government. Why? Because such an act could have led to war, right? It almost came to that, and they would never engage in an act which could lead to war without telling their Bada Bhai, who would have to come to their aid. Pakistan alone would be squashed in 3 days. So this was clear with China. Nobody understands this. This was clear with China. There's a very quick comment on Indo-Pak. People are saying we can make peace with Pakistan and be a problem. These ideas are totally naive. Pakistan will never abandon China because they can't. They will never abandon China, no matter what you offer them. Give them Kashmir, they will ask for Hyderabad. They will say Muslims are oppressed, and they'll be empowered to make that demand. With Kashmir, Delhi is impossible to defend. I'm very sorry, but no Indian government has really cared about the Pandits. Kashmir is all about geopolitics. Kashmir is of great strategic significance. That is why we'll never give it up. एक बार मैंने पढ़ रहा था ये इसको line of control को international border बना दीजिए. I wrote strong articles. Why are you going to tie the hands of future generations? Why are you assuming that we will never recover everything? आप क्यों आप कर सकते हैं? You cannot do this now to tell Indians who are unborn yet that ये आपके लिए permanently हम तोहफा देंगे. Thankfully, I wrote to Sarasang सबको मैंने. Anyway, I don't think it was me who stopped it, but we had an input into this. So ये नहीं किया. So they will, at the very least, they will not fight with us. They will not fight. We have a serious problem in the northern border. They will not fight. What they will do is they will mobilize. By mobilizing, they tie down 200,000 troops, more. 10, 20 divisions will be tied down. They will simply mobilize and come to the border. Excuse me. So this problem is not going to go away. We have to live with this problem. We have to prepare for this problem. We have a strategy to deal with this two-front war. It will not be a pleasant experience. Do not think that we have a walkover. My advice to the government, and this is something many senior government people whom I respect who understand, India needs to avoid a war. We need peace for 20 years to consolidate what little gains we have made since 1990. हमें लड़ाई नहीं करना है. इसके लिए 2 थप्पड़ भी खाने के लिए जरूरत हो, हम थप्पड़ खाएंगे. It's Chanakyan strategy. We have to wait for the right time. We are not ready for a war. They will bomb Bangalore. They will bomb Bharat. They will not bomb Bharat because that will be a nuclear war. We will hit them too. But they will bomb Bangalore. They will destroy. They know which our sensitive areas are. So we have to avoid war, and that is what India is trying to do right now. बातें करते रहो, मीठी बातें, withdraw one step, concede some things. Do not give gully to the government for doing that. Because our biggest crisis will be if we have a war, because we don't know where it will end. With wars, you never know where it will end. We are not ready. So we wait our turn. And I think on the whole, this is what the strategy of Modi ji and Jaishankar and Amit Shah and Ajit Doval ji. These are all very capable people. I don't know Amit Shah, but I know the other three. These are serious people and committed people. They are committed. इनका दूसरा कोई एजेंडा नहीं है. मेरा बेटा पोता पोती को बैठाएंगे, हम जाएंगे, बैंक बैलेंस बनाएंगे. I have known Ajit since the 1980s when he was posted to London. You may agree or disagree with a specific act of theirs, but you can have no doubt about the good faith. I always say about yes, Sarkar, I can disagree with various things you do, but I do not doubt your good faith. You are not doing things out of malice. You can be incompetent, and incompetence is a human rights subject. I mean, कभी-कभी तो होता ही. ठीक. So we do not want war. So every time there is a chorus, लड़ाई करो. कांग्रेस पार्टी का नेता कहता है लड़ाई करो, 2 गज आ गया हम क्यों? This is speaking Chinese language. They have not published their MOU. क्यों? You have written an MOU with our chief adversary and you are refusing to say what? Since you have had so much gali, if there was nothing in it, you would have published it, just to stop. There are things in it which would be shocking for Indians. That is why they will not publish. Americans are not our friends. They have never been. They have one goal. And they have never wavered in this goal. We want to create sufficient number of Christian converts to have a veto. Bharat mein you can have a majority in any state with 36% of the vote. 38%? Huh? The Muslim vote, I'm thinking is 18th to hone wala hai. People, the census says a bit less. 17-18 तो हो गए. Christian तो कहते हैं 2% नहीं हुआ, ये गलत है. You look carefully in all the Andhra Pradesh documents, some of the church people are saying 40% converted. And I have very close friends in Andhra Pradesh. They are within shouting distance of getting to 20 and 30%. The remaining 8% you can buy. Mamata Banerjee does that. She has 29-30% guaranteed vote. 90% of them go to vote for her. Baki 8% intimidation, pitai, paisa, 8% will सकता. These are party people. And she has a model which really works. That model works. What she has done, locality में जो बुडक है, they are the ones who collect the money. Each locality is autonomous. They are the ones who collect the money through extortion. अब न्यू टाउन में घर बनाएंगे, you have to buy your raw material from their gundas. You have to hire their laborers. So they get a percentage. So it's a terrific decentralized system where ordinary people who don't have very much, they depend on this extortion system for their livelihood. So all over Bengal they have done this, and then from that flows the power up, and these people between themselves can organize 8%. They could not organize 25%, 8% they can organize. In my view, she is immovable. Bengal gaya. We have lost West Bengal effectively. The Bengal of Bankim, Tagore, Vivekananda, Aurobindo is gone. I am from there. I ran away partly as a young man because of this. It is not coming back unless you have military action. हमारे constitution में नहीं हो सकता. I fear we have a similar problem brewing in Andhra Pradesh. Kerala तो बाहर हो गया. From 50s even Nehru had to use president's rule in 58. A lot of our country is now very uncertain. Punjab में भी तो ये जो सरकार आया, it came to power with the support of Sikhs for justice. We have a lot of problems to deal with. इसलिए सरकार को ज़्यादा गाली मत दीजिए. India is a very difficult country to govern. We need understanding and sympathy. And सबसे बड़ी बात है, you people and people like me don't like to stand in the queue to vote. And the one thing I keep saying to my friends in government, please make voting easier. Spend the money on more booths. But nobody has to wait 2 hours. I believe there's technology where they can tell you on your smartphone, your voting turn is in 20 minutes. है ना? हाँ, technology है this. But they can signal to you that your turn in the queue is coming up now. Kuch kijiye, make voting compulsory, because Hindu vote is 70%, if you're lucky. Musliman ka vote in 46 was 92% in Tamil Nadu. People used to carry their grandmothers. Let me move on to the larger subject. I will cut it short a little bit. India's trade GDP ratio is 42%. 42% of our exports and imports are connected to the outside world in value. So a big chunk is fuel imports. So what happens outside matters a lot to us. See, we are not autonomous in that sense. ये जो हमारे राजनीति में बातचीत होता है, this is not able to. We cannot address American interest rates going up, recession abroad. 1% rise in US GDP should increase our exports to the United States by 1/3. So you can see the impact of foreign economies, and it is growing 42%. ये एक बात है. So we are constrained. We do not have total autonomy, but like many other countries. Our saving ratio this year is 28. China's is this year 45, a little bit more, 45. पहले 50, 52 भी था. This saving ratio allows you to do everything. Itna paisa can make you do, and what do? They waste a lot. A lot of it is put in real estate, which is a dead market, cities. But you still have enough money to invest in science and technology. And China has stolen a march in the space race, in AI, just to name two. They are the basis for machine tool production in the world. They are the basis for steel, ferrous metals, chemicals. ये अमेरिका ने बनाया. उसको अमेरिका ने बनाया because they thought it's a good counter to Russia. अब उसको गलती का एहसास हो गया. ये गलती हमारे साथ नहीं करने वाले हैं. But they will not allow this to happen with us. They will not help us because we are against China. They understand two Asian big powers means हमारे जो Columbus ने किया था 1498 में Anglo-Saxon dominance वो खत्म हो जाएगा. So they will not allow us. They will not help us to do what they help the Chinese to do. For example, extraordinary thing they did, they ignored all the patent violence, all the intellectual property theft. They knew what was going on. Now, शोर मचा रहे हैं. I'm sorry, it's too late. Chinese reached the point where they could be autonomous. I'm tearful to say that Chinese are patriotic, unlike our big people. We are our बड़े-बड़े bosses in America, Google, ये वो सब जगह में Indian है ना. Young Chinese woman. She studied. She went back. She has started a revolution microelectronics. Basically, in microelectronics, you know the most thing is size and power. है ना? छोटा size power. She has brought Chinese technology above Intel. Intel भी नहीं कर पाया जो. Another man was in Cambridge. He achieved some revolutionary, unheard of. Cambridge University offered him a salary of £1 million. I've never heard of any professor in England anywhere offered a salary of £1 million. Offered to build him a lab for him. You know what he said? I grew up in the soil of my village in China. मैं वहाँ का खाना खा के बड़ा हुआ. मैं वापस जा रहा हूँ. There are many such Chinese people doing this in China. Now they are now unstoppable. हम उनको रोक नहीं सकते. We can halt their progress, but we cannot stop them. And what the Americans and the Chinese have today, लड़ाई की बात नहीं है. ये लड़ाई कभी नहीं होने वाला. They have what is called in international condominium. They already have a condominium, and there is a contest defining the parameters of the condominium. कितने दूर तक? So that tension is only about the defining of the condominium. ये लड़ाई करने वाले नहीं हैं. They are simply using us to tilt the balance a little bit in their favor, because they know the only army which has numbers to give Chinese a hard time is Indian army. Sheer size. Vietnamese are too smart to do it on behalf of anybody. They would never do it. They are too smart. But because we have a serious problem, they know that we can, on one front, hold them. So that is why they are playing games with us. ये जो मोदी यहाँ वहाँ जाके बैक स्लैपिंग इतने बड़ा रहता है, ये all this is fraud, means nothing. He knows it. Modi ji knows. Modi ji had something which people never realized. वो मुझे भी पता नहीं था. he has understanding of the world outside. He showed that before he became Chief Minister of Gujarat when he went to Washington. The ambassador said he won't believe who he wanted to meet and why. He had a vision. So Modi ji ko bahut acha aata, and he actually has smoothed our relationships with many countries, including the Gulf. This may not be forever, but temporarily rishta bana liya. Master stroke getting Gulf to open a mall in Kashmir. How will Pakistani terrorists bomb a Gulf? They usko paisa dilate baat. How are they going to put a bomb in there? ये शेख का अपना भाई का मॉल बनने वाला हमारे ब्यूरोक्रेट जो चालाक होते हैं वो चालाक हैं शैतानी बुद्धि उनके पास है so he has done that. This is what we need to do. The Russia issue in Ukraine is a very difficult one. We can't walk away only because if Russians stop their spares, 1/3 of our air force is grounded because our air force is mainly Su-30s. So even if we thought it's a great idea, which we don't, we can't walk away from them. America, you think cares? If they cared, they wouldn't weaken us. They are prepared to ground our air force while we are facing China. They are prepared to refurbish the F-16 in Pakistan, which will make us more difficult for us to deal with the North. You think they care about us? They are sending us a message. आपको जो कहा आपने नहीं किया. That's it. All American allies have a gun put to their head. Do this or else. Germany, their slave, UK, they have a gun put to their head. ये करो नहीं तो. We are not playing this game, and the Americans are not used to this. Whenever they have this, they do regime change. They did regime change in Egypt. Once president became a liability, उनका तो था. मुबारक तो उनका ही president था ना. Then he became a liability because people are happy. So उसको कहा आप चले जाइए. He refused to go. कायरो में अरब स्प्रिंग शुरू कर दिया, इसको निकाल दिया और एक मिलिट्री डिक्टेटर को बैठा दिया. इनका आदत है. They have been doing this everywhere. यूक्रेन का 2014 वोट किया. Through out the pro-Russian government, अपना आदमी को बैठा दिया. Yes. They would love to do regime change in India, but India is a complicated country. आसान से ये नहीं हो सकता. It's difficult to do it in India because you have to play with too many balls in the air to achieve this. So the best they can do is आप दिल्ली का पार्टी को फाइनेंस कीजिए, इसको मैगसेसे अवार्ड दीजिए, फोर्ड फाउंडेशन को पैसा खिलाइए, आपका नोबेल लॉरिएट भेज दिया, अभिजीत बनर्जी का एडवाइजर इज वर्किंग फॉर इट. ये सब खेल कीजिए. He is a very dangerous man, this Mr. Kejriwal. He is the most dangerous of them all because he has acquired a degree of professionalism, and BJP couldn't shift him in Delhi. Remember, बहुत कोशिश किया. So he is a man to watch. But I think अब मोदी जी ने अब खेल शुरू किया, अमित शाह ने खेल शुरू कर दिया. ये बंगाल में, बिहार में, that is the only way to do it. Don't throw constitution at him. This is our survival. Constitution comes after survival. ये जो खेल शुरू किया, ठीक. I have to say, I'm a Bengali. I prefer a Gujarati Prime Minister. Gujaratis I find a little bit far-sighted. They don't get angry. They believe in, don't get mad, get even. Whereas Bengali, clever, sharpness of Mukherjee, gussa aa gaya. Great man, but get angry. See, you act impulsively. Patel had told him, don't leave the Congress, don't get angry. So I prefer this far-sighted, cynical Gujarati to be Prime Minister of my country. तो ठीक है. So what are they doing? They are trying to achieve, and बहुत पैसा आ रहा है. India is awash with money, foreign money. घुमा के फिरा के. How do they do money? I'll tell you one very simple way of doing money. All our IT companies which are selling and need H-1B visas, you look who they fund over here. Infosys funds Wire and Siddhartha Bardarajan, who was a student at LSE when I was there. इसका दिमाग खराब था उस वक्त भी. He was a young man, उसका दिमाग बिल्कुल खराब है. At least nothing has changed. वही है. So all of this funding comes from the IT companies, big money. From major IT, प्रेम जी ये सब इसको कहते आपको H-1B वीजा चाहिए. Why don't you donate to these people? So it's completely legal. It is awash with money, and AAP has no shortage of money. So they want 2024 Modi ji gone. Because Modi ji is not playing their game. Now, It's not because I am for or against him as such. This is irrelevant for me. I look at policy, what is actually happening, and they are particularly upset about the Russian issue. But they also think his attempt or bid for basically to change our the structure of our GDP to improve manufacturing. We need to do this, you see, because for our per capita level income, the manufacturing is at least 30% too small. I did some work in this in the 1970s about structure of economies, and I compared the whole world. Now, for this per capita income, ours is quite low for historic reasons, bad economic policy, and services grew because manufacturing was squeezed, so resources went into services and IT. That was less squeezed by government policy. He's trying, it is a difficult one. My only conclusion, which is my conclusion, not anybody else's, that in the modern world, maybe we do not need to have an equiproportional amount of manufacturing compared to the past. The services also gives you power. So perhaps it is not as desperate as required, but yes, we need more manufacturing, if only because we need to manufacture defense inputs. ये पॉलिसी तो गड़बड़ किया बहुत सालों से. Defense production. I am on the board with the former CMD of HAL. If you hear what we used to do, is a hierarchy. Small example. You are a contractor, supplier to HAL. Any patent, intellectual property you create doesn't belong to you, belongs to HAL. Where is the incentive? ये सब बदला, it has a long way to go. You brought in the private now because the skill is not concentrated in one public sector enterprise. It is spread across the economy in individuals. Human capital is now an individual component. So you have to involve the private sector. All other countries do it, and we are doing it perhaps not as quickly as we should, but we are doing it. Modi ji can take credit. What is right in my country? There are some things which are not right. And I would refer to them briefly. सबसे बड़ी बात है ये infrastructure surge that all of us know. Infrastructure surge is the prerequisite of progress. बहुत कुछ है. And I must say I rather like Mr. Nitin Gadkari. People say bad things about it, but I think he's a very plausible, charming man. And काम तो हो रहा है. That's all that matters in the end. Roads, and you can do costings. If you cut your travel time by 1/3, your costings and your capital tied up all goes down, and our cost for transport and allied services for individual products is over 13%. We have to get it down to 7%. All the figures are, we know all this, everything is there. So yes, is a very big deal. The other thing is our great historic weakness. We are divided as a society vertically and horizontally. Language, caste. I was just talking to your colleague about caste. ये जो caste जो है हमारे देश में, this began in 1871. ये पहले नहीं था. I am not saying this. ये जो left-wing anti-Hindu anthropologists ये कह रहे हैं. And I'll give you footnotes of where they are saying ये जो आया है हमारे बीच में ये पहले नहीं था. ये अंग्रेज ने किया. They understood. You want to divide these wretched Hindus. अपने आप लड़ाई करवा. Whether it's Periyar or anybody. You want to go abroad to do a doctorate in Harvard, in Oxford. You have to choose your topic carefully. I want to work on caste oppression. आपको scholarship मिल जाएगा. You want to work on gender oppression. आपको scholarship मिल जाएगा. You want to work on human rights violations and make your case study Gautam Lavlaka. इसका नाम पता है? I knew him in the 70s. उस वक्त ही पागल था. उस वक्त इतने बड़ा पागल था मुझे पता है. But he was mad. He was a young man. I think he's a little bit older than me, but he was very close to my uncle, who was a very famous poet and Maoist editor. So उसके घर में आते थे. And I thought then इसका थोड़ा दिमाग खराब है. You do a PhD में आपको पैसा मिल जाएगा. All these departments, Oxford, Harvard, Cambridge, LSE, every single one has got it out for India. जो अंग्रेज कहेगा वही कहेगा. The best economic historian of India today, the best. He actually has no foreign PhD. He did his PhD in Shantiniketan. He writes the best and most powerful books defending British colonialism. Unfortunately, he's very good at what he does. I'd like to take him on because I'm an economic historian, but I'm not समय नहीं. But he's very good. Yogendra Yadav's sister-in-law is jealous. Very anti-Indian. ये लोग क्या कहते हैं? One example will show how much cynical malice there is. They are all against CAA. सीए का डिमांड तो सबसे पहले मनमोहन सिंह ने किया था, अटल जी वॉज इन पावर। उसके बाद 212 में तो ये सीपीएम का जनरल सेक्रेटरी करात ने किया था। Why he did it? Because that was mainly low caste Hindus from Bangladesh. The overwhelming majority are low caste Hindus from Bangladesh in terms of numbers. 32,000 लोग को लिए, and I know how they live. They live near railway camps and their children have no access to education. Absolutely minor thing. They all portrait हम मुसलमान को सब देश से निकालने वाले हैं, सबको citizenship दे. This is the kind of lies they tell. I was in a debate with an Oxford anthropologist. ये झूठ था. To insight. Financial Times article लिखा, India is run by a classical fascist. ना बड़ा outrage. तो मैंने इसके खिलाफ बहुत गाली दिया first post में, बहुत गाली दिया. I don't say my civilization is perfect, but I do agree with Vivekananda. That man sent from the heavens. We have something to say and to contribute for humanity. So, अपने आप के लिए, we have something to say. I say that as a social scientist who was not brought up a good Hindu, whose understanding of ritual is very poor, but I understand the underlying philosophical perspective that we have. What Swamiji said is so correct. And वो तो सचमुच divine था ना, सचमुच. More than anybody I can do. एक था चैतन्य, ये भी था. So I will defend this country for that reason, even if I was a foreigner, as some foreigners do. Now, I will argue that the way we are failing is we are not capturing the territory of narrative. लोग को समझ में नहीं आ रहा. Because I am a professional in this field, writing and making a narrative, I understand it, so it makes me very, very unhappy that this is failing. अभी कुछ शुरू हुआ, history books finally school का शुरू हुआ, better late than never. But we have a long way to go. Long way to go. ये poison निकालना है. I am talking to people who are good people, who are patriotic people. They tell you things which make you shocked. उल्टा सीधा बातें करते हैं about their country. They have no clue. I am talking about highly educated, high achievers who say the most ridiculous things. Because that is the education we have imparted to them. I have explained to my colleagues that I have a model which I am trying to serve how to combat this. It's a very difficult task to do. It will take time, minimum 10 years, but you can in the interim do something to upset their apple cart. हो सकता है, कर सकते हैं. Two things I would say in defense of the government, which I learned while I was working in Atalji's office from 1998 as coming and going. When you see the world from a government perspective, beginning to see it is much more complicated than it looks from outside. Even people you think are bad, अच्छा नहीं है, ठीक है, but when you start, they tell you how they are looking, then you have to start pausing a little, because there are many complexities. And the second thing, central government is not very powerful. भगवान तो है नहीं, they can't do very much. सुप्रीम कोर्ट सर पे चले हुए बैठे हुए हैं, रीजनल पार्टीज पर चले. वेस्ट बंगाल में सीनियर गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स डूइंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल ड्यूटी निकाल दिया, डिडंट गिव देम एनी कोऑपरेशन. तमिलनाडु में क्या हो रहा है? दे वोंट implement the NET exam for the medical schools. So government is not as powerful as we would like to be. The only thing I will say in general, which was a great failure of Jawaharlal Nehru, state building is not a pretty job, but without state building you are nothing. When you are at war, nothing else matters, you have to survive. And as one famous Indian diplomat said to me some years ago, we are an old civilization but a new state. सही बात कहा. And if you do not build a state, nothing else matters. हमारे diversity, all this is meaningless. You can be diverse and you will all be in Central Asia. The biggest number of slaves in Central Asia were Hindus. एक अमेरिकन लड़का ने किताब लिखा. That is what will come to us. There will be no pity. Nobody will ask you आप कैसे हैं. If you think this used to happen before, देखिए बांग्लादेश में क्या हुआ था, ईस्ट पाकिस्तान में 71 में क्या हुआ. It's not that long ago. ये भी होने वाला है. All these people will find that they have nowhere to hide. One little story gives you an indication. I once met a soldier sitting in a library near my house in Stanmore. Chutta was like a soldier, old man. He told me he fought in the Second World War. He was Jewish. So he said they entered a house and they found some Germans, they just shot them. They didn't take prisoners, shot for goli maar diya. So he said then they found a cache of documents from Adolf Hitler. उसमें क्या लिखा था? Very important to understand. इसमें लिखा था all the pro-Nazis in England सबसे पहले उसको गोली मारो. Adolf Hitler का हुक्म था. All the people who are pro-Nazi, kill them first. So ये जो हमारे secular सब दिल्ली में बैठे हुए हैं ना, they'll be the first ones who will be shot if the Pakistani army gets this far. And in 65 they would have taken Delhi, by the way, had it not been for the reforms of J.N. Chaudhary after 62. My colleague fought in that war, the one I sat with the day before yesterday. Yes, yesterday. He said they would have taken Delhi had it not been for the reforms. They almost took Lahore, by the way, Amritsar in 65. They almost took J&K. They were very close to cutting off Jammu, which means they would have taken Kashmir. But at the last minute, Ayub Khan withdrew this general because he was an Ahmadiyya. They didn't want an Ahmadiyya to become the greatest hero of Pakistani history. So they said Yahya Khan. Uska naam yaad hai? They said Yahya Khan. And then we turned the tide. Pakistani armies almost took Amritsar. J.N. Chaudhary, Chief of Staff, sent an order to that great Sikh General Harbaksh Singh. Please withdraw across the Beas. My other colleague was there. He was a captain. He said, "Mujhe aaya, mere saath main nahi karne wala." Harbaksh Singh refused to comply and he fought them off and repudiated them. We are not that invincible. We have had good officers, we have been lucky. Our army is much stronger now. A lot of the deficit has been made up. But we remain in danger. We remain in danger. So, 2 or 3 final comments. I don't want to keep you any longer. I did a bid for some big contract. हम लोग को नहीं मिला. तो इसमें एक recommendation मेरा था. Just to summarize how we look at the Indian economy. Since you will all be doing work like that, the economy is represented by something called the production possibility curve. आप लोगों को पता होगा, production possibility curve. It's a curve on 2 axes. All economies operate below the production possibility curve. Every economy. Some people are further behind, some people are closer. I said the first task of good policy is to enable people to approach the production possibility curve so that all resources are being used with the greatest possible efficiency. Right? Simple. And simultaneously to push the curve outward, to increase resources. Quick point, this moving out, a disproportionate share will come in the future from intellectual capital, knowledge capital. It will not come from physical inputs. A huge proportion, and has been the case elsewhere for a long time. Productivity gains, etc., come from demand, not from additional material. There are 3 things to do to help this. So this was in my proposal. First, you must have a regulatory structure which enables people to approach their efficiency level. Our regulatory structure is not that great even now, I'm sorry. I sit on the board. Even today, क्या ना क्या किया हमको खुद सरकार ने क्या, Home Ministry क्या ना क्या. They want to send an IB officer to my house to check my ID. I've been on the board 15 years. Bad use of resources. Go and chase terrorists. So it's still coming. Regulatory structure which enables the individual entrepreneur to operate efficiently with their own resources, and a public policy structure which allows them to navigate. People say UP is number 2 now. Huh? Yes, number 2. Somebody said to me the other day, when that becomes the metric to assess your position, then already you've got wrong. But where are you in the ranking? My recommendation was, UP में 20 जगह में you send an anonymous person try and open an industry and ask them to find out बात क्या, how long does it take, what are the difficulties, and then you respond. This was actually a recommendation of the person who is now Chief Economic Advisor. He is as brilliant as he is upright. बहुत अच्छा आदमी को चुना सरकार ने, अनंत नागेश्वर ने. बिल्कुल. If I had to choose anybody, I would have chosen him. not because he is my friend, but he's very clever and he knows China and he's absolutely, I call him a very sattvic RBI. Second part is infrastructure, वो हो रहा है, यूपी में बहुत हो रहा है, road network, port network, both. And the third, free market नहीं चलता है. There has to be targeted intervention because there is a thing called market failure. There are areas where you can have productivity but markets are not functioning, so you have to intervene. And Atmanirbhar is a little bit like that because it is creating space for our production despite the lower cost import we could have. This old-fashioned import substitution. These three mixes will advance us, and big reform to रोक दिया ये farmers bill अच्छा bill था, very good bill. And my childhood friend and his, when he was chief cabinet advisor, he was in favor of it. अमेरिका वापस गया, he said नहीं चाहिए. कौशिक बासु गाली दिया, and he writes nonsense into it. मैंने उसे 55 years का रिश्ता मैंने टूट गया. I said I'm not going to deal with you anymore. After 55 years, we used to play football in shorts when we were children. ये क्या बात है? You are anti-India? क्यों? Rahul Gandhi का advisor. Now that farm bill was very good and it was better than what he proposed. He said MSP निकाल दो. मोदी जी नहीं कहा. मोदी जी MSP will carry on parallel. You have the option. There was foreign funding to destabilize. IMF and State Department से अच्छा policy है, but still they were funding. Speak with one voice, do another thing. And it came close to destabilizing the government. And then he withdrew. At that point, I think he had no choice. It was very unfortunate because no, that would have saved Punjab. अब तो रो रहे हैं ना Punjabi farmers. They will have no water. Water table is sinking. The soil quality is dropping. You don't grow rice in Punjab. You grow rice in Bengal. But because of the MSP subsidy, राजस्थान में 1 हेक्टेयर में इनकम is 8 lakhs. पंजाब में 1 lakh. The Rajasthan farmers don't give two hoots about MSP and subsidy. They are making good money. So this was an option of it. रोक दिया. Our enemies are everywhere. कोशिश कर रहे हैं. Pull this lever, pull that lever. इसको पैसा खिलाओ, उसको झूठ करो. Garner optimism. I think this government has to come back at least one more time. I don't say this out of any personality. मेरा साथ और कुछ रिश्ता नहीं है. My relationship is no longer there. I am just an observer. If you want to read me, you will see me in First Post. Last year, I found 10 months I've written 23 articles in First Post, and many more in Sunday Guardian. So I am only interested in policy. Everything is not okay. Our narrative is not okay. Last thing, I want to see जाने का पहले हमारे मंदिर छोड़ दीजिए. हमारे सब मंदिर छोड़ दीजिए. Thankfully, it has an articulate advocate 10 times more effective than me. मेरा दोस्त साहिब का ये पकड़ लिया. And he's everywhere. He's very good. देखिए, हमारे समाज नहीं सुधरेंगे until we give up our मंदिर. मंदिर is the key. It is a single important key. And I say this as a Western educated, a Christian school. I say this, but I have understood बहुत दिन के बाद. We used to have a thing called temple towns. The whole of society radiated from the temple. The temple में worship के बात नहीं था. These were places of learning. Sharda Peeth, Nalanda, these were universities. Please restore this role. It will take time. And I have written an article in India Facts explaining how this can be done. It will take time. Small thing you can do, start with. What choti thing you can do? Select 12 of the biggest temples, the wealthiest, and just pick one chain. Where IAS officer को बैठाने दीजिए. Let them be there to be the president of, they run the show ना. सिर्फ एक बात कीजिए. All income will be used for temple purposes. Make that one change. 12 and see how it works. I have written a very careful proposal since नागपुर में भेजा, दिल्ली में भेजा, घर में भेजा. Propose who will be the office bearers. हम सब आने के लिए तैयार हैं as volunteers काम करने के लिए. अब शुरू कीजिए. Time लगेगा. Now temples are not easy to run. We need a very powerful and effective committee. आप लोग, people like you have to be on this committee. People who understand professional work. It can be done. It will have some setbacks. But we must do. That is the one thing we need. And guardedly, I'm thinking, हम आगे बढ़ रहा है, we are doing okay, and there's less poverty in this country, and we are difficult people, but I think we will manage. So, धन्यवाद.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sen. Now we would like to have a round of Q&A. So please raise your hands and we'll go one by one.
Over there.
Thank you so much for such a nice presentation. So I just have two quick questions. The first question is about the MOU that you also mentioned that is still not in public domain. So what is the reason behind that? And second question is about Dr. Subramanian Swamy. And how do you look at it, specifically talking about Modi and has been critical about the present government for quite some time in terms of economy and also in terms of businesses and also the defense. So just your comment would be sufficient on that. Thank you.
Like all of you, I would like to know what's in the MOU. And I am very suspicious for one reason. He went to some yatra in Kailash Mansarovar, I think, but I don't know, he went there. And then he disappeared for 11 days in China, and he illegally dismissed his Z6 plus security. He dismissed them. He went, he didn't want them to observe what he was doing. Kya kiya na kiya? He has not explained. I'm sorry, this is a matter of concern. Now, I have great confidence in Hamare log, Modi ji. They have a reason for letting him play, because he has done something which is suspect. On Subramanian Swamy, I know him quite well. Personally. I'm always surprised at how well informed he is. Sab kuch pata hai. He'll tell you things which somebody told you in confidence, but he already knows. Yesterday, he said something which diminishes my confidence, which was already a bit weak. He has said, he is in the Supreme Court, that let Kashi and Mathura be exempt from the Religious Places Worship Act 1991. Let all the other mandirs go. Nahi chalega. He says, after these two, we will close the books. I said, no. This makes me very suspicious. And then he actually did something similar with Ayodhya. He says, he claims I started it. This is not the whole story. He also did something which was inimical to the return of Ayodhya. So and besides, he says crazy things, like abolish income tax. Nobody will take him seriously. He is not a good economist. People say he is a brilliant economist. He actually he was very good in maths. And therefore, he worked with Samuelson. He is one of the very few people who wrote a joint paper with Samuelson. But that's because he must have been very good in maths. But being good in maths is not the same as having a grasp of the overview of economic policy. And one of these things is cancel income tax. If you cancel income tax, you will never be able to destroy. Politically, you will never be able to destroy. How many people pay income tax in this country, you tell me? Hardly anybody. The principal income tax has to be there. It is complicated. So I have less confidence than many people in what he proposes. And I may say with my some colleagues, "Ye Modi ka kaam acha nahi lagta," I will not say in public. I will not criticize him because he has enough enemies. I am sure he is perfectly capable of looking after himself. But he has to come back in 2024. Otherwise, we are sunk. Even if BJP wins the majority, we are sunk. Because everything that has happened, unfortunately, it's all Modi. He is the driving force. One of his advisors, who is a brilliant man and relative of mine, very brilliant man, who learned Russian in 6 weeks so he could read Dostoevsky in Russian. 6 weeks he learned Russian. He said to me, in one of the novels, there is a phrase, "Such a man was required," and he arrived. There's a phrase in the novel. He said, "Ye Modi ji." I don't think we should be a bhakt or fan club. Look at policy. Look at policy in a balanced way. And I'm sorry, he comes out 8 out of 10 at least.
Now we move on to the next question.
Hi, thank you. I'm Nikhil from the policy department. So I was very much interested when you talked about the policy, and I'm much interested in the foreign policy that we are currently following, specifically in terms of South Asia. You mentioned that we shouldn't leave our claim on POK for any political reasons it can be. But don't you think the claim is much more on the geographical area, and we have never thought about the demographical issues? The whole of the population is a hostile population, and most of us don't even know Gilgit acceded to Pakistan lot before when whole of the JNK was there. Gilgit scouts with the support of lot of local population, they were already in favor of Pakistan when the whole partition saga was going on. And still, if you see, 99% population is Muslim, majority of them are Wahhabi Sunni Muslims. It would be very difficult to sort of Indianize them. Why are you even looking at that area? Instead of that, to create a political pressure, we should have asked for Meethi of Sindh, which is almost 45, still 45%, 50% Hindu in Sindh, to at least make a pressure. Of course, it is very difficult because that lies on other side of the international border. But why are we claiming POK? That's my personal opinion. That instead simply make it a international border and try to seal it as much as possible that we are doing. Because the population will also come there, and it is almost 50 lakh of population that is there in POK and Gilgit-Baltistan. Thank you.
Well, let me address the second part of your question first. Thankfully, Pakistan would not agree to make it the international border. They won't agree. So, take that problem.
And we have this mic.
Yeah.
Put this one down.
Okay. What you say is unfortunately true. And not only is it only Muslim, it is also Punjabi. They have been marrying them big time. This is a serious issue. I don't dispute that. But you know, we have given up land access to Afghanistan, Central Asia because of Gilgit. This is not about composition, it's about enormously important geopolitical calculation. Now, in my view, we have to leave it open for the future to see how our potential options develop. And my argument to my friends in the government is that we should stop calling this place Pakistan, we should call it West Punjab. Cut them down to size. You cut that place down to size, and even with the Muslim population, we will be able to administer as we are doing in Valley. They will Musliman hai. They will. You see, a lot of the problems we are having with Muslims is all to do with Pakistan. ये disappear हो गया बस हमारे सब समस्या won't go, but it will be much diminished because they look at this and they think, and if you look at Ishtiyaq Ahmed, Pakistani political scientist in Sweden, इसका क्या plan था जिन्ना, क्या plan था? Now we have to play a long hand, and we cannot curtail the historical possibility despite problems. I agree with you. The current setup is following a camel. But we wait and see what happens. Even Muslims are very, very difficult in many places. But I think this will be something Sai Deepak said, I was repeating. He said something very interesting. They asked him, Ganga Jamuna Tehreek ke baat kya hai? And to the reply, he is very clever. I have to email and tell him. He said, it is about not Hindu-Muslims, bhai. It is about the fact that many Muslims, Indians, have not been able to abandon their Hindu past, the Indianness. That is why we have this. Because they are not, attempt has been to make them 100% Wahhabi. Ye sampurna nahi hua. So there are these contradictions. And we don't have proper data. We have a lot of discussion, but there's a lot of people leaving Islam. The reason people are leaving Islam is very simple. They all live lives of hypocrisy. Every single Muslim lives a life of lies because they cannot conform to the prescriptions of their faith. This is not I'm not making this as an abusive comment. I can tell you that there was a wonderful article written in that WordPress website, Robert Spencer ka jo wonderful article by some Bengali woman, I wish I kept it, and she explained how their daily life is in total conflict with the prescriptions of their faith. So there is a huge contradiction, and I'm sorry, we don't understand Islam.
We don't understand secularism. ये उल्टा सीधा बातें हमें बहुत होता है. The Islam we have had, especially since the war, is I call Anglo-Saxon State Department Islam. ये जो इस्लाम बना है इन दोनों ने बना, फर्स्ट अंग्रेज एंड देन अमेरिकन. मोहम्मद बिन सलमान ने क्या कहा? स्टेट डिपार्टमेंट टोल्ड हिम गो एंड स्प्रेड वहाबिज्म, है ना? सो इसी बात ने इस्लाम इज आउटसाइड हिस्ट्री. इट इज नॉट ट्रू एनी people, any faith. All the reform movements have been crushed by the British first in the Middle East. There were many secular movements, nationalist movements, unifying movements. They crushed them because they did not want Arab unity. And they put these conservative Islamic regimes who depended on them to stay in power because they had no popular support. So all of these complexities are there. When Saudi Arabia moves away, and there are some signs, but I don't think it will be complete because without Islam, the royal family is finished. Pakistan is, we have to play a long game, but the road ahead is an arduous and difficult one. I don't want to give up my land access to Central Asia just yet. And वो तो जबरदस्ती करके ले लिया, because Maharaja Kingdom तो Major Brown to gunpoint threw the Maharaja's people out. And sometimes we have to fight, and sometimes we have to shed blood, and sometimes we have to do things we do not like. This is about national survival, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to take liberalism. ये कहानियाँ सुनने के लिए तैयार नहीं है. I'll tell you one thing, this business of left, I know the left better than most people over here because I used to help edit that Maoist paper in Calcutta. They are 1 inch away from Islam. From the very beginning, founding of the Indian Communists, 1925, they were the second bow of Islam. If you look at their party program, it's Praja Shakti Party, एक ही program था. Many Bengali Muslims, Hindus, Brahmins took Muslim names to work in the countryside. They took Muslim names. Many of them went to Punjab to campaign for partition, Bengali Hindus, all Brahmins. And I read in my uncle's autobiography, he is a very famous Bengali poet, a great reputed man of incredible integrity. I was rereading his autobiography recently, and he tells me in that autobiography that he was advising the Muslim waiters in the hotel to go and fight in direct action day against Hindus. In लोगों का क्या दिमाग था? And he says, I wanted to go and settle in Pakistan. दिमाग खराब कर दिया. It happened in the 30s with the left in Bengal. They used to stay in my great grandfather's house, many of the leaders. So, ये left, there is no such thing. There is no leftist leader. Nambutri Pal, Jyoti Basu, this is all bakwas. They will be nothing. The entire vote bank is Islam in Kerala and in Bengal. You see, not a single Indian Marxist has written a decent book, including Joshi. M.N. Roy has written some interesting things, but he left. He left Marxism. So, the left there is simply an excuse for Islam at one remove to confuse. So, I make no distinction. All my left-wing Bengali friends who are teaching in Columbia, Harvard, सब एक है. They're all Islamists. We have to be assertive Hindus. हम किसी को नहीं छोड़ने वाले हैं. We are not going to debate. हम लड़ाई करने वाले हैं. We are going to fight for our rights, and if there has to be bloodshed at the right time, not for the sake of bloodshed, right? At the right time, जब जरूरत पड़ेगा. And बाहर के आदमी ने क्या कहे? Chinese communists have killed 100 million people since the 1940s. 100 million people, 35-40 million in that one famine in Great Leap Forward, 58 to 61. 40 million. Who is saying that ये बुरा आदमी है? They are all running after him to shake hands. हम लोग क्या किया? मोदी जी ने क्या किया? What has he done? He has done nothing. You see, and if you look at his policies, like discussion with Madhu Kishwar from her book, you have no idea how much outreach he has made towards Muslims, how much effort he has made. You should know in 2018, 80% of all Indian public scholarships went to Muslims. 80%. मिडल पे 1000 घर बनाया, you know this पक्का घर का program जो है ना, 800 went to Muslims. Did you see any Hindus in the street saying ये गलत है? Did you even hear about it? I only know because a businessman friend of mine lives in Meerut. He said, ये 1000 बनाया, 800. They met the criteria, whatever that paid. So don't point a finger at us about how to treat minorities. Don't point a finger at us. हम नहीं सुनने वाले हैं. We will smile. We will be nice to you, but we will do what we need to do, which is to build our nation. Modi has done one thing which has never been done in 100 years. A caste vote bank तोड़ा यूपी में. This is a great achievement. For that alone, you will remember he broke the caste vote bank. We never thought यूपी में होने वाला है. So ठीक है, criticize him, but also understand we have nowhere else to go.
So we'll move towards one last question.
Sir, as you pointed, we are not going to have war with China or something else. So, according to you, who is biggest enemy? Means those who are supported with Chinese or Pakistanis are getting fund and creating chaos in country, or those who are with currently ruling party of BJP and not doing any defend kind of work and not aware, they are not aware with this kind of this conspiracy going on in the country against them.
You're spoiled for choice about who is our principal enemy. You know, I'm a little bit alarmed about the scale of the infiltration of Indian society. And be in no doubt, the most effective infiltration is by the church, evangelical organization. And they are the strongest allies of Islamists because they know to keep the Indian government on the run, you need Muslims because they have the numbers. So the church is always behind the scene, and they have been doing it for 2,000 years. Almost. Since the 4th century, 312. And I have reasonable expertise on church history. They know the business better than you and me, how to destabilize societies. They have a lot of experience, a lot of money. Muslims are their main allies. Do you know how Punjab went to Pakistan? In the assembly vote, it went 98 to 101 in favor of Pakistan. Those 3 votes were Christian votes, including the Speaker of the Punjab Assembly. Why? They did what they were told by London. In the 1940s, Pandit Nehru reached out to every Christian organization. Not a single one was prepared to work with Nehru and the Congress. They all went to Jinnah. London mein hum aaya. Quick thing that will show you how conspiratorial the British are. जो direct action day हुआ था, I am saying I worked out it was a conspiracy between the Viceroy of Weber, Governor of Burroughs of West Bengal, and the police commissioner. And Jinnah, they planned it. The Viceroy planned direct action day. Why? If you read that book by Sarila, he doesn't say so, but it is embedded in the argument. There were people in London who were not convinced about partition. Weber was a very strong advocate, but Field Marshal Auckland ने कहा था ये सही बात नहीं है. So he wanted to show to London, if you don't have partition, this is what will happen. And they decided to show this in Bengal. So we are deeply infiltrated. I think our most immediate enemy remains China, simply because it's a military threat directly on our border. In the short war, we can fight them off. I'm quite confident. In the long war, they'll outproduce us. We don't have the capacity to produce equipment. We'll have to depend. And anybody who sells us, they will charge us premium prices. Pakistan is not an issue, except there will only be an issue with China. But the Americans also have a long-term plan, and they are everywhere. You must have seen the WikiLeaks Kunda Kalam mein jo hua tha. So telegram nikal gaya. They incited the local Christians to do this, and why? They said we gave them the Indo-US nuclear treaty, and they are buying Russian nuclear reactors. We should have bought 1 or 2 of theirs to keep them quiet. They are infiltrating, and unfortunately, this infiltration has accelerated after 1998. Indira Gandhi, for all her faults, kept them at arm's length. She didn't let them come. But after 1998, I'm sorry, Jaswant Singh and Brajesh, they had a different view. And they are everywhere now. They didn't have so many consulates पहले. अब थोड़ा बहुत हमको पता चल गया what is happening. We have understood a little bit, but they are also a danger because they want to change us internally, and they are not very far away from doing this. You see, as Bengal is lost, what will you do in Bengal? You tell me. You see, what will you do in Bengal? Women are being picked up and raped. Age of May ke baad, I was very heavily involved in the election. We had a very big group, global group. बर्निंग लूटिंग किया दो, हिंदू मुसलमान टीएमसी का किया, रेप 95% was done by Muslims. माँ को बच्चे के सामने क्या हुआ? इट्स लाइक ईस्ट पाकिस्तान बांग्लादेश, हम कुछ नहीं कर पाए. Do you want this to happen elsewhere? What we need is Hemant Biswas and Yogi ji. We will not take nonsense. They have done nothing wrong. They have imposed a law, you see, but he will not take nonsense. So they want to first deal with Modi, they will deal with Yogi later on. But God willing, they remain safe and have long lives.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sen. Now I would like to invite Mr. Gajendra Moksha for delivering the vote of thanks.
So we are towards end. This is the most challenging task. Being a ordinary student, say a thank you to a very extraordinary person. In academia, there is a trap. In the name of criticality, almost a number of scholars, they are just criticizing or minimizing our national interest, and they are proud of their job. But you have chosen a very different path. Your path is very challenging and motivation for all of us. You said, I will defend my country. I pay my gratitude to you. For me, personally, this is a core statement which I am carrying from this talk. You have touched upon number of topics and issues like Pakistan, China, Russia, and some domestic very challenging issues like Kerala, Bengal. So these are very critical issues. We also need some policy reformation. We also talked about infrastructure. So being a IITian, we need to address these challenges. So this is Professor Dr. Gautam already is performing his best, and we need to support, and we also need to follow his path. From IITBforBharat and IIT Think India, behalf of both the organization, I would like to thank you, Professor, and I would like to thank you, your colleagues. Again, I would like to thank you, Professor Bhanumurthy. He was there. Professor Bapat, he is the motivation and strength to organize this talk. So I would like to thank you, Professor Bapat, and I always, the audience are the like flowers in the garden. So I would like to thank you all with all my hearts to all of you. Again, I am looking forward to, we will also organize this type of talks, and we wish your active participation. So again, I would like to thank you, all of you, and I would formally end this talk with a Shanti Mantra. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.